I'm going to show you this Audi cartridge that I got. I think it was around $80. I think it was a pretty good deal, but I'm also going to upgrade the thrust bearing on it. So this is for a 2.0T Audi. This is the cartridge. This is a part I'm going to put in there. This is an upgraded piece, so it's got 3 oil ports, and it's a full 360-degree bearing. This one's a web design. These can wear out faster because we need more surface area here if you're running higher boost. If you're not running higher boost, you might be okay with this one, but this guy plans to tune this car, so we're going to go ahead and upgrade these parts. Another piece that's upgraded is this thrust washer. So the face of this face right here goes on the bearing, and that provides more surface area for this to contact that, which will provide more durability. These, when they get so small and you run high boost with them, and especially with the web design, or it doesn't have as good of surface area, that can wear out the bearing faster, especially when you're running high boost. Separate those pieces, put it back on the balancer, put it back together. The only other thing I was kind of concerned about is this area really should be deburred, so I'm just going to go ahead and knock that out too. For the price, for $80, I think that's a super good deal, especially because you get the shaft and compressor wheel, and it all fits. These are weird sizes in comparison to other models. This is a little bit hard to find these parts, unless you just buy an entire cartridge. This is what I pulled out of this turbo. You can see some minor scratches on the inside. That one's even worse. So this is the one I'm putting in it. It's perfectly shiny. Before you put this together, I would always make sure everything's super clean and your hands are very clean. So I'm keeping this cloth near me so I can wipe my hands off. All these parts I've already cleaned. And if you feel any resistance or grit, take it apart and clean it again. Make sure your tools are clean. Kind of concerned that that's not right, like there, right there. I'll grab some other pieces, see if I can make that right. This is what I'm used to. So this piece, like, it presses down in there, so it can't move like that. And then this retains it. I'm just going to put it back together this way. So that snaps in. We have no jiggling at all. I replaced that part with one of mine. This piece, this side goes down like that. I always clean these bearings too, just to be careful. So these little dental brushes work perfect for these holes. I grabbed both sizes. I mean, these are the smaller ones, and then I've got a bigger set. These small ones work good for the KO4 stuff. So put some carb cleaner in there before you do that. Pretty simple. This goes down. We're going to drop some oil down in there too before we close it up. Make sure this is clean. It just sits in there like that. Then when we put this piece inside the seal plate. Keep your eye on the open end. Try to get it to compress in there. Gotta massage it in there. We're going to put this O-ring on here, just like that. Make sure everything's clean here. See, I don't even know what that was. Pay attention to where your seal gap is. We can go ahead and put this on and it'll spin around, but I want the seal gap at the top. You can see it slightly on when it's in here. Gonna flip it around. This part also has a clip in the back, but I didn't remove that. I just cleaned it like that with it in there. You need to put the piston ring on the shaft and put the shaft in. And put the heat shield on too. You need to pay attention to all your edges here. These are going to stick up and possibly cause an issue depending on where the heat shield sits. So I'm going to file those down. You don't want those raised edges. I'm putting mother's polish on the cloth and then polishing this. The purpose of that is if there's anything that I can't see, it will take it off, especially where that journal bearing was kind of scratched up. There might be some really small debris on it. I'm going to put this rear seal on here. You put the open end on first. Spread the gap over. And then I'll air it off from there just in case it caught and picked up some debris on that turbine. Make sure the compressor wheel looks appropriate for this housing, just in case there is a clearance issue. I could measure the housing and then measure the wheel, but this looks like it's a good fit, so I'm just going to go with it based on that. Can't see the inside of the compressor housing after you put it on there, or you can't see the wheel clearance, so make sure that's right before you put this on there. Gotta make sure your hands are really clean for this. Pay attention to your gap side. The gap side, I would put it in the direction of the oil feed. It's less likely to leak oil if you have a drainage issue. Now it's time to put the compressor wheel on and the compressor nut. I got this assembled. Before I took this apart, I marked it. I just marked the wheel, nut, and the shaft with a file. It's pretty easy. I also marked where the piston ring seal gap is on the plate. And if it spins like kind of stiff, the reason is because this needs to be retained to hold that flat. Otherwise it kinks with that front seal and collar. So you'll probably notice that it will free up once you put the compressor housing on if you can't get this retained to try and spin it. One thing I noticed that was kind of interesting, if you look down there, you can see the bearing and the little hole for the inside of the bearing. I'm surprised that doesn't line up exactly perfectly. I'm going to replace this flap and bushing here. It has a little bit of play, but what I'm looking at is right here. It has a little bit of play, but I don't think it's really that bad. I'm using this mark to try and set my tension. I think that's probably good enough.